right, welcome back to this week's edition of the Rock and Roll Ghost podcast. This week we are proud to welcome acclaimed author Meg Gardiner. She is the co-writer along with filmmaker Michael Mann on the sequel to his very renowned and loved film Heat. It's called Heat 2. It's set both before and after the events of the film. Welcome, Meg. I'm glad to have you on the show.
Thanks. It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me on.
No, I appreciate it. I also appreciate that you're clear and at a great volume. Sometimes with doing these things, people are like, it sounds like they're whispering somehow, and I don't know. I never know how to fix that because I'm not technical. So,
well, good.
I appreciate it. Well, the main question is first. I mean, obviously, you're renowned for your work. You've done about 15 or so novels on your own.
Yep.
Okay.
15 thrillers. This is Heat 2 is my 16th novel, and my novel China Lake won an Edgar Award. Unsub won the Barry Award for Best Thriller. So I've been working full time as a writer for quite a while now, and this was a new project, a new stretch, fantastic opportunity. It was my first collaboration. It was Michael Mann's first novel, and we wanted to just put the pedal down and create something that would match what Heat does on the screen, but put it on the page as far as character, action, story, drama, propulsive drive, and I hope that's what readers are going to find.
Yeah, well, as I had mentioned before we actually started, I'm partway through it, and it reads like the film to me, and if you know me, you know how huge of a fan I am of Heat. And I have to be honest, I when I first saw Heat, I saw it in a double feature with Pacino. So I went and saw two very long movies back to back, which back when I was younger I could generally do, but there were reasons why I was extremely tired, and I was getting kind of for some reason the movie originally didn't hit with me. And then I married my ex-wife, and she was a huge fan of it. I never knew why, because she's not exactly,
because it's awesome.
Well, no, but it's not like she likes those kind of, she doesn't generally like a lot of violent movies, although I guess she liked Goodfellas, and one of her favorite movies is Blow, so who knows. But she got me to watch it, and I was like, what the hell was I thinking when I first saw it? And now I watch it maybe 2 to 3 times a year. So, and I love Michael Mann. He's a fellow Chicagoan. I love Thief and Manhunter and Last of the Mohicans. So when he announced this, I was just gobsmacked. I could not believe that he was not. At the time it wasn't announced that he was planning on doing a film. It was just announced that he was doing this book with you, and I was like, wow, that's an interesting tact. I guess because of maybe the time that's passed, he wasn't thinking about doing a film, and quite honestly, at this point, I don't know how the hell he's going to do the film with the way things are. With Val Kilmer has his issues, and Al Pacino is much older. But I guess they did The Irishman, so they could probably do Heat too. But it's just one of my absolutely favorite films, and so I was very excited by this, and I've been dying to read it since I heard about it. And then sorry for going on for so long about my love for the film and all that, but
you're not the only one who can go on for a long time about your love for that film.
But how did you get hooked up with Michael Mann to do this collaboration?
He had the concept for a long time. He wanted to expand the world that the movie portrays so vividly and dramatically, which is about this Highline bank robbery crew run by Neil McCauley, played by Robert De Niro, and the LAPD robbery homicide detective, brilliantly played by Al Pacino, who goes after them. So the movie is about their conflict, their dramatic showdown after a bank robbery goes wrong. It's brilliant. It's dramatic. It's just, rocks with action. And it also is just as Michael says, it's a splinter of time in these people's lives. It's an extremely dramatic and climactic, period of in their lives, but it only takes place over a few weeks. And he knew who these people were, and that they had lived quite dramatic other portions of their lives before, and that he could see where the survivors, let's say, of the film would go afterward. And he was he'd had it in his mind for forever that he really wanted to tell those stories. And we have the same literary agent. So when Michael was talking about doing this as a novel, he knew that he wanted to collaborate. I mean, he's an extremely accomplished writer, needless to say, and his writing had been in film and television until now. He was doing a significant flex and stretch, and all power to him that he wanted to do this in a new arena at first. And he realized that it was his first novel. He wanted to collaborate with a novelist. So our agents put us in touch. Michael had read my novel Unsub, about a young female cop who's hunting a serial killer. And we talked on the phone for a couple of hours about how Michael wanted to write a book that told the before and after of Heat, with just as much drama, just as much conflict, with absolutely slam bang action, and expand it into the future and in the most dramatic fashion possible. I was, of course, fascinated, daunted. Michael is an icon of mine and has been forever, just like you. And I knew this would be a challenging project, a big project. I've never collaborated on a book before, so it would be new for me and for him. Mm-hmm. And I've always wanted to write a heist novel. Yeah. I mean, I've written psychological thrillers, revenge thrillers, woman on the run stories. I've always wanted to write a heist story. And when would I ever have an opportunity like this again in my lifetime to write a heist story with the man who did the greatest heist movie in history, I think. I would agree with that. Yeah, there's been a lot of them, but that one, it's the best film about robbers and the cops chasing them I think I've ever seen. So yeah. So we started talking about his concept for the novel and his ambitions for it. As you mentioned, it's you haven't had a chance to finish it yet. It's a big story. It's not a short story. It's a big story, and the story requires the telling, because it spans decades and continents, and has those, as I mentioned, those action set pieces, as well as the character moments of extreme drama. And believe me, getting a chance to write action sequences with Michael Mann is a once in a lifetime thing that I feel extremely privileged to have been able to do. And we talked out the story. We talked out the plot. This was during the start of COVID, so we couldn't really get together. We just worked over the phone, handed background material, and wrote outlines and passed them back and forth, and really kind of worked out how we wanted to do the before and the after parts. Knew we wanted to intertwine them, that it wouldn't be strictly chronological, that she would be jumping back and forth from the day after Heat, with the book opens with Chris Shiherlis, the Val Kilmer character, nearly dead from a gunshot wound after this epic battle on the streets of Los Angeles, desperate to escape LA. Vincent Hanna, the cop, is just as desperate to catch him before he slips through his fingers. And then it goes back to Chicago years earlier, when Chris and Neil's crew are living large, taking really daring scores in on the border in California and in Chicago. Hannah's a Chicago detective hunting a gang of very violent and ruthless home invaders. And we start to see how the score and the hunt nearly intersect, how they collide later on in their worlds. It jumps forward to South America when Chris has escaped from the United States, had to leave his family behind, and drive across the border with a massive gunshot wound. And we find out what he's going to do, what new world he's going to dive into in Paraguay. And then it all builds and returns to Los Angeles in the year 2000.
Like I said, I'm very excited to keep going with it. It's very good so far, and I think without revealing too much.
Thank you for not being too spoilery. I'm trying to do the same thing.
I don't know. I guess this is a question towards you. What was Michael's I guess reason, or what was his intention, and if it's a spoiler, just say it's a spoiler, of putting Macaulay and his crew in Chicago at the same time Hannah was it just to kind of give the idea that here Macaulay was right under Hannah's nose and he wasn't aware of him? Was that the basic idea?
That was part of one idea. Clearly, Heat is the story of their collision, yeah. And they were unaware of each other until the events of the movie. The novel expands on the ways that their worlds rubbed up against each other, and parallel each other in some ways. Chicago's a big place for money and the mob, and there are lots of ill-gotten gains stashed in a subterranean bank vault, and that's irresistible to Macaulay. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler to give away. Also, remember, Michael Mann is a Chicago boy, born and bred. He loves the city. He grew up there and really wanted to return to that environment to tell this part of the story.
Yeah, because his movie Thief was one I watched late in life, mm-hmm. And boy, that really, because I'm 51, so that took me back to my memories of going downtown. Mm-hmm. Chicago was a lot like New York back in the 70s and 80s. It was a lot rougher than it. I mean, people think. I mean, it's certainly with the violence right now, it's rough. But as far as look, I mean, it was run down. It didn't seem like Chicago was coming back, and then eventually now everything's new. But it's so fascinating to watch a movie like Thief because it's like a historical document how the city used to look. Mm-hmm. I had another question. Well. So you mentioned about the process going back and forth with the outlines and things like that. How did the actual writing break down between the two of you?
It started with me realizing that I wanted to write the first few chapters just to give them to Michael to see what he thought. I mean, you can talk all you want and write up notes, but you need to put the story into dramatically onto the page. So I wrote several chapters, sent them off, and he came back with keep going. So at that point, I kept writing, was shipping off every single thing as I wrote it. He'd come back with notes, and then eventually, as the process continued, we ended up each taking, by the end of our revision process, we were swapping chapters, sending notes back and forth, swapping scenes. One of us would write it, send it off. The other one would edit it, send it back, or we would each take a scene for revision and work it out. Scenes, pages, paragraphs. So the process became really enmeshed by the end of the story. There's it's hard to tell who's written what at this point, which
That's great.
I
So
find,
it's an actual true collaboration. That's pretty great.
yeah, it is. Michael is known for both the brilliantly intense stories he tells, particularly in crime films, and he's known for his exacting commitment to research and detail and realism, that he has a standard, and everybody had better meet it, because it's going to be his film. This is going to be his book, mine too, but you know, it's his name on the cover as well. I knew that it was going to be challenging and demanding. I knew that the research that I did would be more extensive than anything else I had done on any other novel I'd written, to make sure that everything we were writing about was authentic, which meant that we got on the phone with a bank robber for a couple of hours to find out how you pull a tunnel heist. We rode out with the LAPD late one night to you know, hit some streets that the tourists on their way to Disneyland tend to skip. And I think all of that really informs the granular detail in the novel. But I will also say that, as exacting as Michael is known to be, as a collaborator, he was really generous and open-minded, and was happy to, you know, say, try it out, go for it, write this, go as big as you want. And usually I would do that, and he would come back with something bigger and more dramatic, and I just smile and gasp at the scope of his imagination, and then we would fit it all in. But it was I felt a real responsibility to make sure that I did this right.
Yeah.
I was writing new stories for characters that fans of the movie already know, and that readers would be meeting. And I needed to make sure that these people seemed as real as they did on the screen, and authentic to Michael's understanding of them, and make sure that all the action, as much as it is, as much of a rocket sled some of these action sequences are, that it always was in service of the story and the characters, and the risks that they're taking to accomplish their goals, to carry off a score, or to stop somebody from carrying off a score, or whatever, that the story and the characters really have to land and nail you in the heart.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you mentioned about the research, and everybody I think that knows anything about Michael Mann knows that he is an exhaustive researcher. But you also come from a background, I would imagine, where you probably have done a ton of research, because you've covered a lot of very specific things. You talk about, you know, serial killers and cops and FBI agents and all that. So, I mean, did you feel like, because of your past work, that you were just, you know, in your mind, exactly perfect for you know, working with somebody in a similar vein?
I knew that I had a lot of experience, and I had a lot of knowledge that was going to apply to the story, which was a bonus, because I didn't have to understand how you know, how a homicide division runs, or a major crime division, or I'm a former lawyer as well, so I understand how the court system works. I had done seminars run by the FBI and the ATF for writers to get a real sense of what their work is like, and to have learned to reach out to everybody from former spies to people in the defense and tech world, to pararescue jumpers in the National Guard, to understand what their lives are like. It was just, I knew that this was the Michael Mann project meant that I was going to be trying to get inside everything at an even deeper level. Like there's again, trying not to be spoilery, there is a scene in the novel where a character climbs up a rope ladder up the side of a huge ship out at sea, and I wanted to have some sense of what that would feel like, other than just saying, they climb up a rope ladder. And Michael said, well, I'll send you some photos of me doing it.
Oh my God.
So,
was that his, like, that was his idea in the outline to have that, or did you come up with that idea and then he just happened to have done it?
at this point, I can't remember which one of us came up with that, although the fact that he, immediately sent me, a couple dozen photos of him on looking up at the side of a 200 meter long tanker that told me that he certainly had it as a suggestion.
Yeah, that's interesting. And did he say why he did that?
I'm sure it was in relation to a film project that he'd been working on. So take a look at his IMDb.
Yeah, I can't remember. I've seen pretty much every film of his. I can't remember seeing somebody climb up a tanker, but maybe it's just not coming out. Well, anyway, he is known to be exhaustive. Well, let me, we've talked a lot about Heat, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but you mentioned you practiced law and then you taught writing. I saw it was the University of California.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've had an interesting life so far in terms of careers, and you must be happiest to be doing what you're doing now, I would imagine.
Yes, I'd say law, teaching, raised 3 children. So. Yeah. And I always wanted to be a writer. I always hoped that I would find a way to write. That I knew that it might be part-time in the evenings or on weekends after coming home from court or lecturing to a class, and spent years, like so many other people, figuring out how to write a thriller, a crime novel, and. Like so many other people, I have abortive attempts that remain in the bottom of the file cabinet where until I can pitch them off a cliff into the Pacific Ocean. And it took years to learn how high the bar was and how I would how good I had to be to clear it. And finally, I got my first novel, China Lake, published, and I haven't looked back. So I've been extremely fortunate and privileged that I am able to do this for a living. There's nothing I'd rather be doing.
Yeah, no, it says something about you that first novel won awards. It's got to be pretty. It had to be pretty just heartening to not only get published, but to have people buy it and to be awarded for it. It had to be mind blowing at the time.
Shocked, mind blown, absolutely overcome, the feeling of validation, relief, cheers. I think when I heard my name called, I slapped my cheeks like the Home Alone poster, if you remember that. But it told me to keep going, definitely.
Yeah. So for the fan, the reader like me that is coming to know you from Heat 2. Mm-hmm. Which of your novels, or you can say 2 or 3, whatever, would you suggest to start with to read of yours?
You could start with Unsub, which stands for Unknown Subject. That's the first in my series about the young cop, Caitlin Hendricks, who becomes an FBI profiler. And there are 3 novels so far in that series. If you like standalones, there's a Woman on the Run story called The Shadow Tracer, which is a chase across the southwestern United States. And I think those are good places for readers to start.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, because I intend to, I read everything on my phone now. For some reason, I just have trouble with the print, copies for some reason. So I'll be definitely buying a few of your novels after I'm done with Heat 2.
Oh, thank you.
No, I appreciate it. You know, I'm glad to get to know a new writer. I always like finding new things to read. There was something I saw. I think I saw on your website. You were on Jeopardy and won 3 times.
I did. Yeah.
So you're pretty damn smart.
Well, thank you. I have a very strong trivia lobe in my brain, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I won them 3 days. It was absolutely fantastic, fun, terrific experience. And I always tell everybody, don't, if you love Jeopardy, work up the courage to pick up the phone or you know, hit that URL at the end of the show that says, if you want to be a contestant, click here. Just do it.
Yeah, I don't think I have a terrible memory, so I think I would probably I would be like the Celebrity Jeopardy version. I'd be in a negative. And you know, in the modern world, we're seeing a lot of, and I don't know how much you maybe want to talk about this, but you know, you're I noticed that you were a member of the Chickasaw Nation, and you know, these days we're getting more into indigenous, you know, ancestral storytelling. You know, there's Reservation Dogs, and there's the what is it, Dark Winds, I believe.
Dark Winds, yeah.
AMC, and Prey, the Predator sequel just came out too.
Fantastic. I just saw it. It's absolutely fantastic.
What an absolute great, and people have debated why wasn't that released in the theaters. I think it's because the last 2 Predator movies really didn't do well, and they didn't want to take the chance of spending that kind of money and have it flop. But I really wish I could have seen that in the theater, honestly. And Amber Midthunder, the star, said that they actually filmed it with both English and Comanche dialogue.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. What do you think about it? I mean, you know, you look back to Dances with Wolves, and everybody thought, well, this is going to be the start of indigenous people getting, you know, their stories told, but that didn't really happen after Dances with Wolves, really. But we seem to be in a time now where different parts of the world, different, you know, nationalities, different races, what have you, are getting more power to tell their stories. As a member of the Chickasaws, what do you feel about that yourself?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's way past time. I think it's there are all these stories out there that have been waiting to be told. Storytellers out there waiting to get their chance, and it's absolutely terrific. Reservation Dogs. I've been just recently watched the first season of that. It's charming, it's funny, it's heartbreaking, it's Taika Waititi, so it's got a kind of a cracked sense of humor, but it's absolutely marvelous. Dark Winds is we binged that, which is adaptation of Tony Hillerman's early novel, and it's extremely well done, really suspenseful, really proves that, again, there are all these voices, there are storytellers, there are actors out there just waiting to be given the moments that they deserve on the screen, and it's wonderful. And Prey, believe me, Predator's always been a big movie in our household. I'd say the children saw it far too young. Let's put it that way, because they're
I get that.
To it. But we were all over that immediately, and it really is. It's stunning in so many ways. The scenery, the storytelling, the characters, and as far as indigenous stories, it's set in an era that hasn't gotten a lot of play. It's not Dances with Wolves, set in the American West. It's not a cowboy story. It's about a young woman who realizes that that it's not a bear out there that's after them. And so I urge everybody who's a fan of science fiction or the Predator franchise to get right on that.
Yeah, I said on social media after I saw it, I said, I don't know if it's either the best Predator film or it's the second best, and I think I want to see it again. It's so damn good, and that doesn't happen fifth entry in a series.
Right.
At best, the first one, which is generally, very good.
Right.
So yeah, no, I that film actually spoke to me a lot, and I like the fact that it was before, even though it has the French fur traders, or technically just skinners. It's pretty much contained to the Comanches film. It's and even though they're speaking English, which fine, you kind of have to make some, I guess, concessions to a wider audience. I would suppose. Although it is available, I heard that in Comanche for some instances. How you get that version, but it would be pretty cool to see that.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing to see that unrelated to the Europeans coming, necessarily to wipe out, Native Americans in the end. Have you? I know we're a little bit over, but have you ever thought about working in film in any way? Have you written anything for film that maybe didn't get made or anything like that?
Well, all my work has been on the page. It's been novels, short stories, essays for anthologies. But I would certainly not turn down the chance to spread my wings and write something for the screen. So, because I love to write. I love to write.
This may be the thing that gets that kind of attention. Who knows?
Well, Michael Mann.
Yeah,
he makes the movies.
And one final thing: you've written 15 novels. Have you been approached to not have to get the rights? Somebody wants the rights to make.
Yeah, I've all my series have been optioned at one point or another. Most recently, The Dark Corners of the Night, the most recent entry in the Unsub series, was optioned by Amazon Studios for development. We'll see.
You'll see. Okay. All right. Well, Meg, I really appreciate you taking the time today. Like I said, so far what I've read is awesome. It's very exciting to be able to talk to somebody that had a hand in making a sequel to one of my favorite films of all time. And if so everybody knows, Heat 2 is out today. You can buy it on hardcover, and on an e-reader. If you choose that way, it's available everywhere.
Or an audiobook. It was a fantastic audiobook. It's also out, narrated by Peter Giles. So, however you like to get your stories, grab it.
Great. Well, Meg, thank you very much. Best of luck to you. I hope maybe we talk again for a future project, and you have a great rest of your day. Okay.
Okay. Great. Thanks. You too, Brett.
All right. Bye.
Bye.